Welcome to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker, a podcast to encourage and equip moms along their parenting journey. Join Sarah each week as she interviews dads and moms like you and discusses the joys, challenges, and rewards of raising kids.
Hi, and welcome to this week's You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and I'm glad you joined me. Today I have with me Leah Remele. She is the founder of the CEO Kid, and she's a wife and mom of 3 kids. And I love this part of your bio, Leah, who happens to be obsessed with cheese boards, getting stamps on her passport, and impromptu kitchen dance parties. Can I come in next time you have a kitchen dance party? Because that sounds like so much fun.
You are so welcome.
Yeah. Today our loose topic is raising self-reliant, confident kids. And I must say that, the self-reliance has been kind of a buzzword lately, hasn't it? I mean, people all of a sudden are looking at, helicopter parenting and snowflake kids and going, oh my goodness, these kids are not self-reliant. So why are we all of a sudden focused on that as a society?
Right. So it's something that I've been aware of and been being taught this need for me, myself personally, to be self-reliant and then to raise self-reliant kids for, 16 years now. And you're right, we're starting to hear more about it just recently. And I think it really has to do with, parents used to send their kids to college and they'd all be sitting around talking and laughing and saying, oh, my kid doesn't even know how to do laundry. My kid doesn't even know how to cook. And it was like they were all laughing about it. Well, we're starting to realize that's not actually funny. It's not okay if your child is going into the world and can't figure out how to, get some clean underwear for themselves, right? Or have a healthy dinner. So I think we're realizing more and more that this as a society, that this concept of doing everything for our kids, and this is the thing, it comes from a good place, right? Like we want to feel like, oh, we're giving them everything, we're taking care of everything for them, but really we are handicapping them. We're kind of, making them have a disadvantage by not letting them learn these traits and these skills for themselves.
Yeah, and I love that you put, kind of like we're handicapping them, not in a disability sense, but in a sense that we're not letting them reach their full potential, right? By not allowing. I mean, I remember. And I think we just forgotten as parents as our kids get older. But don't you remember your kids when they were toddlers and they first learned to do something? Like I remember one of my kids when he first stood up by themselves and without any help. I mean, the look on their face. I mean, I wish I'd had my kid, to snap that picture because it was such a look of, look what I did. And
right. It's this sense of empowerment, right?
Right. Yeah, that empowerment. And I look at my own kids. As we were talking before the show, I have four children between the ages of 11 and 17. And they do a lot of chores around the house, and they complain about it. But I tell them, look, you're not going to go off to college with not knowing how to do your laundry, not knowing what a balanced meal looks like, and how to shop and cook it. How to sew a button on, those kind of things. You're not going to go off and do that. And because I know you're capable of doing this, kind of the message I'm giving them. You're capable. My 11-year-old is capable of cooking a meal by himself.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the honest truth is most parents are not understanding how capable their kids actually are.
Yeah.
Like we are severely limiting them by what we think they can do, and we need to make space to let them do more things. But that means we need to also make space to let them fail, to make mistakes, to not get it right, because it's going to be a learning process. I remember, so one of my very favorite parenting books I ever read was The Parenting Breakthrough by Marilee Brown Boyack. And in it, she's very analytical minded, very type A. She loves to have, a list and a manual for everything. And she becomes a parent and she's like, there is no manual. What do I do?
Yeah.
And so she kind of sort of made her own. She basically sat down and made this exhaustive list of everything she believed her kids needed to know by the time they were 18. And then she divided it up by years. So, age 3, they're going to learn this, age 4, age 5, and kept building on it, which I just thought was brilliant and I loved. And the first time I read it, my youngest was 3 or 4. And so I'm reading what a 3 or 4-year-old should be able to do, and she says, teach them how to make their own sandwich. And I think it was a 3-year-old should have been able to do that. And I read it when my son was 4, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already behind.
Yeah.
So I go into the kitchen, I call my son in, and I'm like, guess what we're going to do right now? I am going to teach you how to make your own sandwich. So whenever you're hungry, you get to come in and feed yourself. And he lit up like the brightest Christmas tree, right? He was, exactly what you're talking about. He was so excited that he was going to have that kind of power. And so we've kind of, that was a huge lesson for me as a parent. And we've just built on that over and over until I have 3 kids, and my youngest is 11 also. So I have an 11-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old. And all 3 of them make dinner one night a week. And I'm talking like true dinners with pan sauces and fresh herbs. And they all know how to cook. And it's just been something now, but mind you, like their first dinners were not like that, right? We were all like, this is good, and it wasn't. So we've built on that over time.
Right. And I think that's something that, we do forget as parents. And it's funny you're saying, because I have a 11, 13, 15, and 17-year-old. So, hey, same ages. I'm right with you. And
we are
my
right
kids,
there. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And they cook. And it was funny because my 11-year-old doesn't have a specialty yet. He's still looking for his specialty. And his older brother asked him, he made something for the first time, a new recipe to the family, and to him, of course. And his older brother said, so is this, do you think everyone liked it? It was a hit. And he said, do you think maybe this might be your specialty? And my 11-year-old's like, I don't know. This was fun, but I think I'm going to still. So he's like looking forward to cooking so he can find his specialty. It cracks me up.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's
but
awesome.
it also I think shows that, our kids, they can have these, they know how to cook. Okay, whoopee. But they also are building these memories in our family. They're also, they're going to talk about this when they're old and have kids of their own. They're going to remember these kind of things. The fact that they know how to feed our family, they know how to mow the lawn, they know how to change sheets on a bed, and they know why it's important to do that.
Right.
Clean a bathroom. And did they do it perfectly the first time? Heck no. You know how many dishes I've rewashed in my life?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But it's that idea of giving them space to, I love the idea of him, your son, he's trying to find his specialty, right? And giving room for that creativity. One of the things that I realized was, and I think this applies in all areas of our parenting, is I was trying to structure it all for them. Like, okay, you're going to make dinner tonight, and maybe pick something really easy. Here's the noodles. Here's the sauce. Make spaghetti, right? Like, but that didn't inspire them. That felt like a chore. But when I gave them room to say, what do you want to make? Find a recipe. Mm-hmm. I'll buy all the ingredients. Just right. And I think that comes into play in a lot of areas where asking them and finding out what do you want to learn? What are you excited about? What do you want to try? And then making room for them to get to, and understanding that you might end up throwing away a lot of groceries from that meal. Who knows, right? But you're just giving them room. And that's going to be those fun memories too. Instead of it being this chore, it can be fun. It's the same thing as like our kitchen dance parties. We have to clean the kitchen. It has to happen. So why not turn on a super fun playlist and dance around while we're doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do that when my kids were little. We used to have we used to do what, I don't remember what I called it, but now I'll call it, we used to have the Blitz before Dad came home from work, because I stayed at home with the kids and my husband was working. And, and we would I said, okay, Dad, for 5 minutes, I set the timer, I jack up whatever, music, kid music, friendly music that we were listening to at the time, and we would all just run around like crazy and pick up. Some days we were more successful than others, but it was a lot of fun, and it got some things done. And I also wanted to talk with you about, because I know you're the founder of the CEO Kid, which I also love, this idea that kids can, run their own mini business. As, somebody who has kids who want to earn money, who are desperate to earn money off the paltry allowance that their parents give them, this is fun. So talk a little bit about the idea behind that, because I think our listeners will be interested in it.
Absolutely. So I was looking for how I could teach my kids success principles, so these key principles of integrity, ingenuity, creativity, generosity, hard work, determination, right? Like these things that we really want to instill in our children. And I wanted them to learn confidence. Well, I've been a strategist for over a decade, and I've been a speaker. I've had the honor of getting to speak internationally and all over the U.S. and helping business owners learn how to build their business and how to elevate to the next level. And so this is something, this is my background is business. So our conversations since my kids were little have been, we talk about business stuff at the kitchen table. That's a normal thing in our house. And I really wanted them to learn these concepts. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have them each start a business, any business they want, and I'm going to teach them the fundamentals. I'm going to teach them how to think about who their client is, what their big idea is, how to create an incredible customer experience and customer service, which in turn is teaching them those skills of talking to grown-ups, making eye contact, being, right, like all these other great skills at the same time. And so we started doing this. They each started a business. My youngest, he started a drone photography business. My middle, she started, she's amazing. She loves to sew. So she started creating these fun little wristlet purses for little girls and their American Girl dolls, like little matching purses that they could wear, and selling those on Etsy and at farmers markets and Christmas bazaars. And then my oldest started just a babysitting business. But in this, we went through and we really talked about all these different concepts, and watching their confidence just explode, I instantly was like, oh my gosh, okay, this needs to become something that any parent could get access to for their kids. So I created the CEO Kid. So it is a online academy with this really cute, fun box. So they get this adorable box, shows up on the doorstep. It's got what's going to become their active business plan. It's got a calculator. It's got a notepad that teaches them about kind of starting to understand planning their week, making goals around their education, their family, their business. It has a confetti popper. That's my favorite thing, because it's for when they have their first customer or their first sale, because I want to help instill this what I think is very important, which is celebrating our successes. Often, us as adults, what do? We say, oh yeah, this great thing happened, but, and we discount what we've accomplished. And so helping them, take a minute to really celebrate that. And then every concept has a corresponding video in their CEO Kid online academy. So for example, if they're learning about customer experience, they've got their workbook, which is going to become their little active business plan. And then they're also logging in and they're watching a video of me explaining and telling stories and sharing these ideas about customer experience. And then my hope is that parents will let their kids do it on their own. They don't need to help. This is a hands-off, except for maybe some small math things if they're younger. But then parents can kind of be like the mastermind with their child and just have the really fun conversations and just be there to encourage and support. So, yeah, that's the CEO Kid.
Yeah, and I think that as you were talking, Leah, I was just thinking, about all the ways that parents could sabotage that. Not in a bad way, just a lot of because we can do it better because we're adults, right? We know we can forward think and know and that, and so I love that, it sounds like you really emphasize, hey, let the kid do it. Let the kid do X, Y, Z. You may want to tell, like my boys were little, they wanted to start a, not really start a little business. They wanted to go around the neighborhood selling sticks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it without laughing. And bless their little hearts. And I just looked at them and I said, nah, I think it's great that you have this, idea. I said, really think about it. is anyone really going to pay $1 for a stick when they can go in their backyard and get one? And they were like, oh, right. I mean, just kind of thing. I didn't really want to burst their bubble, but I didn't want anyone laughing at them either. So I think, sometimes we do need to kind of go, help them think it through. But it's so tempting, isn't it, as parents to want to get in there and fix those problems, to want to get in there. And I probably should have kept my mouth shut. I probably shouldn't have said anything to my boys in their 6 and let them find that out on their own. In hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have. But I think it's a good example of how we can kind of, that tension we have in ourselves, because we don't want our kids to fail. We don't want them to laugh at.
And I think that goes to that more underlying problem of, like, how do we teach self-reliance? Well, if we're not teaching them, if we're not giving them the opportunities to learn for themselves, then they aren't gaining any new skills that are going to help them forward thinking. But that's why I think we can be their think tank with them, right? So sitting down and saying, okay, let's talk through, how are you going to deal with this? What would you do in this situation? And you can lead them to recognize and understand some things, and they get to have that aha moment for themselves. Versus just doing it for them. And I do think that there is something really powerful in letting our kids do hard things. If we're looking at how do you teach self-reliance, well, in order to be self-reliant, you need to have some grit. And where does grit come from? Grit comes from when we get on the other side of a hard thing. If we as parents step in and do the hard things for them, then they miss the opportunity. They just missed out on a wonderful opportunity to understand just how capable they really are. And so, yes, definitely encouraging the effort, but not necessarily the outcomes. Parents will ask me, what do I do if they fail? And I always answer the same way. This is a great time to fail, because guess what? Their mortgage is not going to be foreclosed on. They're not going to have to worry about how they're going to get food on the table. They're not going to have to worry about, right? They can just do this for fun. Yep. They can learn lessons, and you can have great conversations like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for trying. What are you going to do different next time? What did you learn? Why do you think that happened? We've certainly had that, even with lemonade stands. My kids did a lemonade stand. It didn't go well. Okay, why do you think that was? What do you think would help? And they came up with answers. They decided they didn't like their location, and then they decided that where they were holding their sign, they thought that the cars were driving by, and they couldn't tell what it was until they were right on top of it. So their next round, they decided to send one of the kids further down the road holding the sign so that people would see it coming and be able to pull off, and they went to a much busier little corner of the neighborhood. And, I mean, guess what? They increased their profit from, I think they made $20 in several hours the first time to they made, oh gosh, it was a crazy number, like $268 in 2 hours. I mean, just insane. Oh, wow. And they got to learn that. Right? And we literally will even take something like the lemonade stand and run it through the CEO Kid, because the CEO Kid, the kids have access to it. It's forever. So they can run as many ideas. If 1 week they're like, I have a lawnscaping business, and then the next week they're like, never mind, I don't like that. I have switched over to cookie baking. Right? They can run as many ideas and be learning and compounding these lessons and these skills and these success principles every single time. But it can only happen if we let them try those hard things. Yeah, and I was thinking too, a little slightly off the subject, but I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and my kids have tried a few businesses, maybe not through the CEO, maybe that's the problem, but no. It's been funny though, like they have a little cat sitting, one of my daughters has a regular cat sitting client, which is great. And, but he posted on Nextdoor saying he was looking for cat sitting. My girls are not on social media that much. And so I replied that I had, cat crazy girls and they'd be happy to do it. But other people were posting all these professional catsitters.com, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I just noticed that a lot of the things that you mentioned, babysitting for your daughter,
a lot of the things that kids used to be able to do, it's been like, professionalized. Have you found that to be true? Instead of the kid going around knocking on doors saying, hey, can I mow your lawn this summer? They hire all the professional landscaping companies.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely there, but I honestly haven't found it as a deterrent. Number one, I think it's a great opportunity to help kids understand that they do need to appear professional. Now, does that mean that they have to have, some huge website and all of that? Definitely not. But it's been really, really fun seeing how well kids can do. And I think another thing is so much of business is about telling our stories. And kids have an incredibly powerful story when they are a kiddo with a business. I mean, my son, he does drone photography for real estate agents. I mean, his competition are professional, very grown up, have their own driver's license photographers. And yet he gets business. And as he proves himself and builds his reputation, more people are talking and, telling, oh, I have this kid. He's so cute. He does it. He does a great job. And they love supporting him. And I've seen that. I mean, we now have CEO kids, our little members all over the country and even internationally. We did Germany and Vietnam, Europe, other countries in Europe, Canada. And, telling that story, the thing is there's a lot of grown-ups out there who would love to support kids. It just feels a little bit better, and they're willing to give them a chance. And so it's just, finding those people.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And, and always, reminding my kids, I may take them someplace, like when we went to go meet this potential cat sitter. I took them place, introduced myself, and I said, you want to talk to my daughters. Just make it clear that I wasn't the one. I'm happy to help with the schlepping because nobody has a driver's license yet. Working on it, but not quite yet.
Yeah.
And so, it's like when my older daughter got a job at an ice cream shop last year. I dropped her off and I said, you got to talk to her. We did prep. I said, here's some of the questions you might be asked, et cetera, et cetera. How are you going to answer them? That kind of thing. But yeah, I think you're right in that kids surprise us. I guess that's the thing is my kids have surprised me with what they enjoy doing, what they're willing to do, and I think when we get out of the way and kind of let them, whether they fall on their face or not, that's just a great learning experience, and it's always safer to do that before they hit 18 than after.
Yes, and helping them understand that is a part of life. You are not always going to get it right. When we're going after our best life, it involves taking risks. And isn't that what we want as parents? We want our kids to live their best life, to have, true joy and happiness and fulfillment. And that comes from doing things a little bit differently. And one of the things for me is, none of my kids may become entrepreneurs. They might right now, based on what each of them wants to do as a profession, none of them are thinking I want to be a business owner. But I know that no matter what, they're going to be more prepared because they know how to think like the CEO. And that's going to make them that much more valuable and that much more of an asset, within whatever company they may end up in someday.
Yeah, and that is, I'm sorry, we are out of time, Leah, so we have to end there. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to You've Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hammaker, and I've been talking with Leah Remillet. She is an international speaker and consultant and the founder of the CEO Kid. You can read more about her in the bio with this podcast, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast of You've Got This with Sarah Hammaker. Sign up to receive notification of new podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhammaker.com. Until next time, remember, parenting might be hard sometimes, but don't worry, you've got this.